Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Welcome to lesson number 5 in Islamic Inheritance. We are currently discussing the الفروض as with fixed shares. And so far we've gone over the ab, the jad, the akh and ukht li ummin. And hopefully you've all done the after lesson questions also. In today's lesson, inshallah, we'll be going over the Zawj, the husband, a relatively easy and straightforward one. So in condition number 1, the Zawj receives half of the inheritance when the Ibn, Bint are not present. So the two relatives you're looking out for are the Ibn and the Bint. And we know that when we say Ibn, we mean Ibn, Ibn al-Ibn, so on and so forth. Bint, Bint al-Ibn, so on and so forth. So if they are not present, then the Zawj will receive half of the inheritance. And if they are present, then the Zawj will receive a quota of the inheritance. So only two conditions. Condition number 1 receives half when the Ibn Bint are not present. Condition number 2 receives a quota when the Ibn and Bint are present. So before we carry on, inshallah, we need to take some time out and learn this table off by heart. Okay, so some examples for condition number 1, which reads when the Ibn Bint are not present, the Zawj will receive half of the inheritance. In this example, over here we can see that there are no Ibns present, there are no Bints present anywhere, and hence the Zawj will receive 1/2 of the inheritance. And we also know that the Akh li Ummin, which we discussed in last lesson, will receive 1/6 of the inheritance. Another example for condition number 1, and again the condition reads when the Ibn Bint are not present, the Zawj will receive 1/2 of the inheritance. So in this example, we can see there are no Ibns present anywhere, no Bints present anywhere, and hence the Zawj will receive half of the inheritance. We've also covered Ukht li Ummin, and we know that in this example, the Ukht li Ummin will receive 1/6 of the inheritance. So that's condition number 1 then. Some examples for condition number 2. Condition number 2 reads, when the Ibn Bint are present, so if any one of them are present, then the Zawj will receive 1/4 of the inheritance. So in this question here, we can see that the Ibn is present, the Ibn, the son, and hence the Zawj will receive 1/4 of the inheritance. And we've also gone over the Akh li Ummin, and we know that in this question there will be mahjub. Another example for condition number 2, which hopefully we know of by heart by now. When the Ibn Bint are present, the Zawj will receive 1/4 of the inheritance. And so in this question, we can see that the Bintul Ibn is present. And we know that the Bintul Ibn falls under Bint. So because the Bintul Ibn is present, the Zawj will receive 1/4 of the inheritance. And we also know that the Ukht li Ummin and Akh li Ummin will be mahjub and receive nothing. Alright, so let's get started with some questions, inshallah. Like always, when the questions do come up, pause the screen, write the question down, have a go at answering all the الفروض that we've covered so far, then play the video and check your answers. So in this question, we'll deal with the Zawj first, as it is the topic of Zawj, and we're on the Zawj at the moment. So the Zawj over here will receive a quota of the inheritance. Why? Because the Ibn al-Ibn is present. So this will fall under condition number 2. We've also covered Akh li Ummin, And we know that the أخ لأم will be محجوب because of the Ibn al-Ibn. In this question, we can see that there is no Ibn present, there is no Bint present, no Ibns, no Bints. And so according to condition number 1, Zawj will receive half of the inheritance. We also know that the Akh and Ukht li Ummin will be mahjub because of the Jad. And we've also covered the Jad, and we know that the Jad in this question will be Asaba and receive the remainder of the wealth. In this question, we can see there are no Bints, no Ibns, no Bints, and hence the Zawj will receive half of the inheritance. We've also covered the Akhli Ummin. We know they'll be mahjub because of the Ab. And we've also covered the Ab, and we know that the Ab will receive Asaba. In this question, we can see there are no Ibns present, no Bint present, and hence the Zawj will receive, that's right, half of the inheritance. And the Akhli Ummin will receive 1/6. In this question, we can see that the Bintul Ibn is present, which falls under Bint. Hence, according to condition number 2, the Zawj will receive a quarter of the inheritance. And we also know for the Akhli Ummin that he will be mahjub. So in this question, we have Ibn al-Bint, but remember, Ibn al-Bint is not part of the Ibn. Remember, we said Ibn, Ibn al-Ibn, so on and so forth, Bint, Bint al-Ibn, so on and so forth. And we discussed this in lesson number 2, if I'm not mistaken. And we know that the Ibn al-Bint does not have an effect on the inheritance. And hence the Zawj will receive half of the inheritance. And the Akh li Ummin, Ukht li Ummin together will receive 1/3 of the inheritance. So in this question, we can see that the Ibn is present. So according to condition number 2, the Zawj will receive a quarter of the inheritance. Hopefully by this time, we're working our questions out a lot faster, inshallah. The Akh li Ummin will be mahjub. The Ab will receive 1/6, and the Jad will be mahjub. In this question, we can see that the Ibn is present, so the Zawj will receive 1/4 of the inheritance. The Akh li Ummin will be mahjub, and the Jad will receive 1/6. In this question, we can see that there's no Ibns, there's no Bints, and so the Zawj will receive half. The Ukht li Ummin here and Ukht li Ummin here together will receive, that's correct, 1/3 of the inheritance. Again, we can see no Ibns, no Bints, hence the Zawj will receive half of the inheritance. The Ukht li Ummin and Ukht li Ummin over here will be mahjub because of the Jad, and the Jad will be Asaba. In this question, again, there's no Ibns, there's no Bints, and hence the Zawj will receive half of the inheritance. The ab will be عصبة and the jad will be محروم. In this question, we can see that there is no ibn, there is no bint, and hence the zawj will receive half of the inheritance. The akh li ummin, ukht li ummin, ukht li ummin, all of these three over here together will receive 1/3 of the inheritance. Okay, as always, there's a link in the description box with some after lesson questions. So inshallah, before you move on to the next lesson, please do have a go at them. Have a go at our after lesson questions. Find the link in the description below. Jazakumullahu khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.